Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining this afternoon. A time for us to spend a little time together, maybe give you some information that you didn't already know, share some resources as well, and get to know you a little bit. So thanks for joining. As a few more of us join, we'll just have them come in when they do. And let me get to my right screen. First, we'll do a few introductions. Firstly, what an incredible staff we have. It's just been, I think, one of the best starts of the year we've ever had as a school community, because we have been able to, go back a little bit and move forward in a new way. So we've learned a lot over the last couple of years and taken that learning and put that into our everyday. And so, added a few new staff members. We have 3 student teachers in our school, resident teachers for the year. So lots of fun happening. So I'm going to ask the staff that, are here, the cupola staff will introduce themselves in a minute. I don't know if there's any other staff besides the cupola staff on. If you're here, unmute and tell us who you are besides the cupola staff. We'll talk about you in a second. Any other staff on? Really go to there's so many different ways to see the people, so I don't think so. Oh, Noelle's on here. Noelle, do you want to say hey? And Michael, maybe? Not sure. Noelle, if you're speaking, we cannot hear you, so I don't see you. Okay, well, if she wants to say hello in a minute, she can. For the rest of you, why not, if you're on a computer, you'll see these little people down at the bottom right corner. And if you click on those, you'll kind of be able to see people on the list that are here. So I'm going to ask you, if you have a child in the early education program, if you can just raise your digital hand, or if your camera's on, you're welcome to wave at people just to get an idea. So go ahead and wave to turn on your digital hand. And that's located, there's a little hand down there in the middle bottom. But it kind of gives us an idea of who's here from the early education program that has children there. So thank you. Thanks for raising your hand. And if you go to that little, image where it shows everyone, you kind of see whose hand's raised. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Great. Great. Big group of you from the early education program. All right. If you want to go ahead and put your hand down, if you have a child in the 6 to 12 program, anywhere in the biomes, the gemstones, go ahead and raise your digital hands. We can kind of get an idea of who's here from the elementary program, 6 to 12-year-old program. All right, great. Awesome. So about 8 of you there. Thank you. Thanks for raising your hand. You can go ahead and lower it now. And what about a teens program? Anyone representing a teen at Community Montessori? Oh, there they go. Hands going up. Great. Awesome. The numbers kept going down because we usually have half of our studios are new in the early childhood every year, because half of them move up to the elementary program. So great. Thank you so much for raising your hand. You can go ahead and put them down now if you'd like. So we're going to talk some today about who we are. We are recording this. If you're okay with that, just know that if you speak, which we love for you to speak, it is being recorded so that the families that weren't able to join tonight will be able to watch this later. So don't let that scare you. It'll be okay. I have to see myself, so don't we all? I think if she's on, Jen Redmond's on with us, who's from the PIP Council. Parent Involvement Partnership. When we started the school in 1998, I was like, I was talking with a group of our parents. I'm like, instead of PTO and PTA, what about if we just create our own organization? Imagine that, a new name for Community Montessori. So we ended up, this small group of parents and I coined it the PIP organization, Parent Involvement Partnership. So there's no membership in the Parent Involvement Partnership. It's run by a group of parent volunteers that helps find ways for families to get involved. So Jen, are you on the call? Maybe not yet. So if she pops on, we'll let her share a little bit about the excitement of the PIP organization. Glenn is also the liaison for PIP, and they meet and regularly talk about and plan different things throughout the year to help families to be involved. So the cupola staff, myself and Glenn, my second half, are the founders of Community Montessori. So we are a nonprofit organization, but I'm the director of the school. So my role is to do all the things, but I focus a lot too on staff development. I do the hiring of the staff, most certainly work with children and families as well, curriculum, finances, all the different things. So I work with my amazing colleagues and coworkers to help us to be the best version of ourselves for you and your family. So Glenn, take it from there.
I just stand up at the top of the hill and wave at everybody every morning and every afternoon. That's my job. I'm teasing. I'm the family liaison, wear many hats like most Community Montessori admin staff, like Barbara particularly. I am in charge of support and enrollment, support technology. I support any support with learners that's needed. I'm supporting safety on our campus. I support our maintenance staff, and I support families and learners of anything that's needed. So pretty much wear many hats, but enjoy every one of them. So I'm so glad to have the opportunity to support you all this wonderful beginning of our school year.
And so I meant to mention, Glenn, that the cupola is the name of this architectural it sets out from the roof of the entrance of the building. And so that's why we call ourselves the cupola staff. So we sit underneath the cupola, beside or in front of the curved desk instead of the front desk or the front office. So if you haven't had a chance to be inside, if you weren't here for open house, we're in this kind of circular space at the entrance of the building. So Prerna, share about yourself.
Hi, my name is Prerna, and I work in the administrative services. So anything related to learners or related to the Department of Education, I help Barbara and Glenn with. I've been here since 2015. I had my daughter start in the earlier, and now she's in the teens. It's been a good, interesting, long journey, and we're excited to keep moving forward in that.
Don't let her speak herself short. She does a thousand different things, as all the cupola staff do. So, and the biggest master of sheets and spreadsheets and things. So if you ever want to be amazed. Thank you. Melissa, another juggler in the cupola staff.
Hi, I'm Melissa. I work with all the finance information for the school, as well as help our new staff get associated when they come and join us. That's pretty much it.
Oh, yeah. Nothing much. And she sits here after 5 o'clock.
Sorry, lots to do. Also have had 2 children graduate from Community Montessori. So my last one graduated last year.
Oh, great. She does human resources, and we have had the most amazing grant year of our history. Can you hear me okay? Did you lose me?
Just for a sec.
Oh, okay. I'm glad I'm back. So we also had the best grant year of our life. It's a Community Montessori, so she gets to support all of the reporting and managing of those grants this year. Woohoo! Thanks. And I meant to mention, Glenn and I both had, our 2 daughters who started here in 1998, Caitlin and Casey, who graduated in 2011, 2014. And 2 of our soon-to-be 4 grandchildren are in early childhood. This is their 2nd year. Thanks for remembering that, Melissa. All right, Jesse, one of our newest members of the cupola staff.
Hello, my name's Jesse. I'm the community ambassador. My responsibilities revolve a lot around communication. So you'll see a lot of emails from me. You should have already seen a few emails from me, and there will be a lot more to come. I also help with anything administrative that I can to try to alleviate some of the work that Parina does. I'm familiar with wearing many hats, and we all do that. We also all support the curved desk. So depending on the time of day, if you call the school, you may end up talking to me. So apologies in advance for that. And I also help work with grants and help manage our school website and our social media accounts. And I am new, so I'm still finding out a lot of the things that I'll do. I'm sure there's more to come. But
He'll be sharing more during a slide today. He's going to share more about what he does too. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, Jesse. Jesse,
And Jesse, you're
person.
a parent. You're a parent too.
Oh, yes. I do have a daughter. It's currently in the Gemstones. She just moved up. Big year for us. She's been here since kindergarten level. So it's been a really awesome journey. And I can personally attest that having a learner at this school and now getting the opportunity to work here has allowed me to bring home a lot of Montessori-based mechanics that have really facilitated peace in our household.
Mm. And we almost sound like a co-op around here or something.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Jesse. Kelly's bounced around a couple of different places. Where are you now, Kelly?
Yes, I now sit at the curved desk. I started at Community Montessori in 2011 as a DS, finance, and moved over to the curved desk. Both my boys have graduated from Community Montessori. I support enrollment, attendance, inventory, help with finances, help Paige with health services. So just kind of a little bit of everything.
There you go. Another juggler at the curved desk and the cupola staff. Thank you. Paige.
Hi, my name is Paige.
Be safe, Paige. Don't wreck the car.
I know. I'm currently getting out of work. I have my kids who are learners at the school, but I work in health services, so I write all of the health plans, and I support the curved desk. And if your learner gets injured while at school, I help support that too.
Yeah, all the things. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Paige. And then if you were going to go back to this resource where we're going to be talking about the Informed Montessori blog, or it has lots of blogs or different types of things in it, this will be in a PDF format, which I think you'll be able to use the hyperlink. The rest of our staff directory is linked there below. So this will be posted in the next few days on our website as well. I think Jen Renben joined us now, and we'll go back and let her share a little bit about the PIP organization. Hey, Jen.
Hi there. Sorry, I got stuck on a work call. I'm Jen Redman. I am a member of the PIP Council, and I have had my son Jude at the school since he was about 3.5, and he's 10 now. We everyone on this call is involved in PIP. We all agreed when we came to the school to have 10 hours of service towards the school, which makes us all parents involved in partnership with the school. However, the PIP Council is just a small group that's overseeing just the general day-to-day of what our overall goal is, which is to be good stewards for the community building within the school. We help plan in-person gatherings and book fair, your spring celebration, which you'll hear more about in the end of spring, winter gifting, which is coming up and really helps out our staff in the studios. We help with PIP grants. So any fundraising that we do, and you'll see some, but we're not the wallpaper and candy and popcorn kind of fundraising. It's really grassroots community-based fundraising. And you'll see that over the last 5 years, we've had $18,000 given back to the studios in our
Fantastic.
So what we do on the PIP Council, and if you're ever interested in joining, please reach out, what we do on the council is just help sort of oversee those, but volunteer opportunities are ever present, and you'll see ways in which you can get involved a little or a lot through staff meals and staff appreciation, snacks during PPCs, etc. You'll see signups come out, and a PIP Connection is kind of our little newsletter. So we really encourage you to read that. It helps you find ways to get involved with whatever your best skill set is. And then we have a link. I don't know if you'll have a chance to have it in the chat, but we'll have a link. We can have a link to our YouTube, which explains all about us. One thing that I will say about PIP that really helps us out is if you sign up for our Kroger community, you just sign up and Kroger sends money for your shopping. You don't have to do anything. And the same thing for Amazon Smile. And we have a QR code that we can help get you to all of those links. So those really help us out.
$18,000. Wow, that is incredible. And so that goes towards things like going out trips and different activities, which reduces your cost at the same time. So thank you, Jen. Thanks to all of you for your service to the PIP Council. Very helpful. PIP at shinyminds.com, right?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, no worries.
Yeah. You can go to that and it'll take you to the YouTube link, which gives you all of the information. It's just a little 2-minute, 54-second video, but it's packed full of information.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is a very informal meeting. And so if we're talking about something and you're curious about it, feel free to raise your digital hand or just unmute and speak. I'm not going to turn on the chat right now just because I'm telling my coworkers to go on with their evening. So I'm going to be, doing this by myself. It's really hard to watch the chat. So feel free to unmute. If you want to stay on after the meeting, I'll stick around too if you would rather talk more privately. So these are two other members of the cupola staff. If your child has met Presley or Tico, they reside in myspace here, and we call them more like, of course, we don't have a principal on purpose, and so we don't have a principal's office, and so we just call it Barbara's space, and we go by first names. And so sometimes young people that might be struggling emotionally or socially, or just need a break sensorily, or just want to come up and visit. Presley and Tico get visitors pretty much all day long. They are 2 of our 5 housemates at our home, Glenn and I. And so they're both rescues and have both been trained through the Canine Good Citizenship program. So it's a lot of fun to have them up here as well. Also, we'll just kind of first give, some of you may have remembered the history when you came and did the virtual tour or in-person tour before you came to the school. But it's like some of you, Glenn and I were looking for what we wanted for our own children. And my background was in education. I thought I needed schools and learning. I graduated from IU Bloomington. I went to try to get my first couple of jobs. And as I started that process, and then we started to have our own children, we both started to question, what do we believe about education? What do we believe about learning? And we were watching, I think it was a 60-minute segment on Montessori education. And Glenn and I both looked at each other and thought, what is this? How did we not know about this? And we went to visit a school a few days later. And then I found myself at the school board meeting at New Floyd County Schools. The superintendent at the time was Ed Adams. And I said, after the board meeting, how do we get a Montessori school in our community so that families don't have to leave their community to go to school? He said, I love Montessori. I think it's fantastic, but do you know how expensive it is? I said, no, I have no idea. So I didn't find, I said, if I find the money, would you support it? He said, yeah, I would support it. I didn't find the money, but I kept finding more people that were passionate. And so we quit our family jobs at a lucrative kind of family business and started a nonprofit organization. So Community Montessori is run by a board of community leaders and volunteers. And so you can find their information on our website. They meet 6 times a year. Their next meeting is in September. So their role is to really look at things like like Melissa and I will present a budget to them. We present the handbooks, all the policies and procedures. They ratify those pieces and make sure that we're walking the walk. And so as a nonprofit organization, Glenn and I do not own the school. We are just employees. The board employs me, and then I employ the rest of the staff. But as we were looking and we first observed a Montessori school, I thought, who was this person? Why is this called Maria Montessori? I never really understood. I mean, maybe I got a sentence in undergraduate, but I didn't really know. So I went back to get my master's degree at Xavier University in Cincinnati. And I asked these people, a few people that I knew in the community, to be on the founding board of Community Montessori. And so we started with about 59 children in 1998. I told the board I had two objectives. One was to add an age level every year through high school, and the second was to eventually be tuition free. I thought it was a travesty that so many Montessori schools cost between $10,000 and $15,000 a year, and I wanted to make a school that any family could attend. And so when I was researching about starting a Montessori school, I learned about charter schools. And in that process of learning about charter schools, I realized that that would be a way to have an independent Montessori public school, but the law didn't pass. And so we started as a private school. I kept lobbying for charter school legislation. When it finally passed, we got into a room with about 200 of our families and said, here's the pros. The top of the list was tuition free. Here's all the cons, top of the list being standardized education. But we really created a bond with our authorizer, Ball State University, to create a plan where we could live within our philosophy and also provide a free public education to our families. And so sometimes people will say it, even children, like, is Maria Montessori your mom? I get that quite a bit. Maria Montessori, of course, lived in the early 1900s, and she was a phenomenal modern woman who stepped out of the bounds of what women did in the early 1900s. And as one of the first women physicians in Italy, she was a scientist. And eventually, through her story, she was working with children and realized that in that scientific perspective, that to observe and to watch for what they need, and that children go through natural planes of development, and what we do as adults in those planes of development, what is our preparation, what is the environment's preparation. And so we've taken this very true and modern approach to learning, which has, thousands of schools in the United States and tens of thousands of schools all over the world, and really base it on a foundation of respect for each child. And so part of that respect is we're in the journey with them. We're not trying to pour information in. We're trying to be in this conversation to increase and help them with their independence and confidence and knowledge. And it's an amazing process. But of course, we could talk all day about Maria Montessori, and she was an amazing person. And I encourage, as part of your family's work at home, learn more. There are some great books out there about Dr. Maria Montessori, and letting your child know, like, what does that mean to be in a Montessori school? We talked about the charter school. So many of you have arrived here at our school through the lottery. Some of you came because you got in through the wait list as a 3 or 4-year-old or older. And so every year we have an application period. And then if we have more applicants than we have spaces, we do a lottery. And so it's part of our charter, and it's part of the Indiana state law as well. So it's a focus on that whole child process. And so we talk about that we really see 8 constructs. So we don't see just math and language as our goal at this school. So we see a much bigger whole child approach. So we look at the child intellectually, socially, emotionally. We support ethics, wellness, creativity. School success is that construct about like test taking kinds of things. What do they need to get in to Purdue if that's their goal, and helping them to meet those objectives. And aesthetics, finding the beauty in things. When a young child in the woods in the back of our school finds a snake, they look at it with new eyes, right? Because we're encouraging this aesthetic and this wonder and curiosity. Definitely not just about test scores at our school. So sorry if that's what you came here before. Thank you for coming. Enjoy the rest of your life. No, I'm just kidding. it is a big part of what we do. So right now we have about 600, about at capacity. I think we have a few early ed spots open. We have about 630 children from our infant toddler program called the Community Nursery, all the way through the high school program. Oh, I meant to look this up. I don't know the number, but it's somewhere around 300 to late 300s of the number of graduates we've had at Community Montessori that have gone and done all the things around our country. So our own daughters being two of them. So it's quite a humbling experience for sure. So Maria Montessori said, observe the child, do not intervene. This approach requires a lot of patience and discipline, but it is absolutely necessary. From those observations, curate and prepare an environment best suited for his developmental stage and interest. And I'm guessing that on this call, every one of us have been in a situation where we did not curate and prepare the environment, and we know then what happens, right? Things are hard. And struggle's okay. But, you know, in this environment, as you know, if you're here at Open House, there is a meticulous process that goes into place when we create these environments. And if you've been at a different school, you might see the difference, right? It's that, you know, they are thinking about all the pieces and parts. And so when we work towards an environment that's holistic, we want to help make every child successful in that process. So we create it for their development, and then we watch them individually and move that process from there. Schools should be an extension of home. Home should be an extension of school. So we challenge each of you as you embark on this school year to think about, you decided to enroll your child in this program. This is different than what's down the street. And so to make this really work well, you also have to think about what changes at home. Sometimes when families have not thought about this particular philosophy, and they're like, oh, it seems like a cool place. They're building this natural playground. I think I'll send my child there. You will not get your bang for your buck or your best knowledge from this experience if you also don't lean in. And like Jessie said, Jessie is not unique. Many families that started this school, I can't tell you the glares I got from our staff and co-workers this year. We hired a couple of our long-standing subs, because oftentimes that's what happens. When parents do this well, they get engaged. Many of them would like to work here. Many of them do. And we really encourage you to please don't be on the sideline. This really won't work as well if that's what happens. And you'll look up in November or December and realize that things that we talked about today are not happening in your own home. And we want to help do those things in both places. And some of you, I haven't had a conversation with a family that was dropping off a 3 or 4-year-old this morning, maybe a 5-year-old. And I said, you could actually stay on the other side at the sidewalk and they could walk across by themselves. They were like, they're not ready yet. I'm like, well, I trust you. You'll know when they're ready. So encouraging children to move towards independence is a big part of what we do at every age level, from birth all the way through high school as well. Things you can do at home to support that level of consistency. And so we just want to talk through some of those pieces. The first one being that modeling of behavior. We here on this campus work really hard to not have double standards. If we ask children not to bring soft drinks in their lunch, then we also don't bring soft drinks. If the studio does not have a way, it's mostly just the teens program, for them to drink coffee, we don't drink coffee. So we really work to have an environment where we model. If we tell them not to yell across the room, we don't yell across the room. I remember the second year of the school, I was interviewing a new staff member, or a new applicant to be a potential staff member. And I was talking to this woman and I said, if we want to talk to a child, we get up and walk across. And if we want to do this, we sit at their age, at their level, instead of standing high above them. And she said, wait a minute. You're telling me every time I want to speak to a child, I have to get up and walk to them? Why can't I just tell them to come to me? And I said, well, because we want them to do the same thing, right? And she goes, oh, I can't do that. No, if I work here, they come to me. I just stay in my own seat. I don't move around. I said, well, I appreciate you coming in. But, it's just a different thought process, right? We really want to model what we expect. And sometimes that looks at home like if you say no phones at the dinner table, and yet you have your phone out, well, I'm doing a work thing, right? Like it affects that child's ability to trust that you say what you mean, and you mean what you say. So, and even like at the school, as we're moving, to more kids in the building, and we got kind of used to, like, there weren't many kids here because maybe COVID was really high last year or the year before. And so we'd walk around with our phone, but we have a process like for that. We don't walk around the building trying to text on our phone. If we need to text, we'd step into a studio. And so there's parameters that we try to use to be consistent with the parameters within our building. Discipline, we really work on inner discipline. We don't have in trouble, and so we really encourage, if that's a phrase in your communication at home, to remove it at school. Oftentimes, children that are new to the school will say things like, I'll say, "Hi, how are you?" Am I in trouble? I'm like, we don't even have in trouble at the school. And they're like, "What?" I'm like, yeah, honestly, we don't have in trouble. Now, we all make decisions, and there are consequences to our decision. Like if my friend dropped all of her books on the ground, I might go over and help her, and that might make me feel good because I helped her. And so that's a natural consequence to my decision. But we really work to, even if a child made a decision that was unkind or uncareful or wasn't respectful to another human in their studio, we would work with them to help to create a solution that they would grow from, instead of them feeling a sense of punishment or someone doing something to them. Like, we don't have a detention environment in the school. That doesn't mean that we are not firm at times or support children in ways that could be firm, but we really want to do that with them and not to them. And so it's kind of a dance, especially with new young people. At first, it's just about building trust. And then as we build that trust, we work towards helping them to make good choices, even when someone else isn't watching. We use encouragement over praise. So you won't hear our staff saying things like, "Good job," or "Good job, Joey," or "Everyone look at Joey's work." So instead, we want to encourage them through inner discipline to make those choices, even if no one sees it, no one catches them being good. Instead, we work towards them feeling good about what they did for themselves. That doesn't mean we don't use encouragement. Of course, we use encouragement. And so we just look at that and make sure that encouragement isn't really praise, right? So a young person just put all the numbers in order from 1 to 100 on a material we call the 100 board. And they've been working on it for 2 hours. They're a 4-year-old, and they're ecstatic, right? They cannot believe that they finally did this. We would mirror that same excitement. So if they're like, "Oh, I did the whole 100 board," we'd be like, "Oh, you did the whole 100 board. Which part was the easiest? Which was hard?" So we're having that authentic conversation with them. You can imagine if, and we all might feel a little bit differently with this, but I made a cake and I worked really hard for it. And I made this beautiful cake and I'm showing it to my partner or spouse, and I say, "Look how they did that. Good job for you. You get to go now and have 20 more minutes of sleep tonight because you did this," right? Like, we want that authentic communication from the people in our life. So that's what we do with young people too. We don't want them to look at us for them to want to please us, or want them to feel like they can only feel happiness if we show them happiness. So we believe in unconditional encouragement and support that leads to things like inner discipline and independence. I'm going to pause there because that's a big one. Some of you might be thinking, "Oh my gosh, I say good job all the time. Am I a bad parent?" Of course you're not. But there are reasons we don't do it here. And so if you want to learn more, at the end of the slideshow, I have a whole list of books that will be on the Informed Montessori blog too. But does anyone have any questions about that, or anything you'd like to share that others might find helpful from the group? Just pretend the camera's not on. All will be fine. Anybody? Well, feel free to just pop in if you think of something you think it might be helpful to others. Purposeful and developmental independence. We really encourage young people to carry all of the things that belong to them each day. We know it won't be perfect, and we know sometimes they're going to leave without one shoe or without their hat on. And, it's a process. And so it can become really easy in our adult, very fast-paced world to focus more on efficiency than development. And so, if you've noticed that this really fancy, cute backpack that you got that costs $75 is not functional anymore for your child, then think about if there was something else you could do that could be more functional for their development. If it's too big for their body, if it's showing that they cannot open the zippers to get their water bottle out. But we really encourage, purposeful and developmental independence, ways they can check that. Since the time our children were 6 or 7, they scheduled their own doctor's appointments. When they went into the doctor's office, they filled out the paperwork. They got their own credit card when they were 8 and 10 years old. So they, it was our credit, it was in our system, but they would give their own credit card to do the payment. And so as much as they're, capable of, those are ways that they can show purposeful and developmental independence. And we encourage you to do that, and so thinking about it, you with your co-parent or a spouse, thinking about what things you can do to help them, instead of giving them a chore, have a family meeting and discuss what do we all want our family to be like, and your child might say like, I want to go to Disney World. You're like, okay, so that is one of the things on your goal list. So let's think about how we could go about doing that. And they might say, I want to help create a budget. So as much as they can, they can help you pay bills. They can go online and see how money goes in and out. So really involving them in a developmental way is a really special thing to help that person continue to gain knowledge. Self-regulation. Some of you on the call are going like, oh, how do I get that? Where's the inoculation for that, right? And all of us know that for sometimes, like if someone was showing me how to put a carburetor in my car, I probably could not regulate to be able to pay attention to that right then, because it may not be very important to me. So there's all kinds of things that are less important that's harder for me to self-regulate. So if mom or dad wants to go for a run and I don't, and I get really frustrated, why do I have to go on this run? I want to stay home. I want to do my tablet. I want to do this or that. So we really encourage that you think about, how can, we stand beside and with instead of for and to, right? So if I'm beside this young person who is struggling with self-regulation and I am having this conversation with them and we're rooting for each other, right? I'm rooting for them instead of, you didn't do this, that was something you were supposed to do. This was for this, giving them what I would call Charlie Brown kind of conversation where what they hear is want, 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 right? And instead we're saying things like, you are upset. You do not want to go on this run. But remember when we had our family meeting, I told you what was important to me. And that was to go for a walk or run on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And so you said you want to go to the park on 2 days a week. So on Tuesdays and Thursdays, we go to the park. And so this is our agreement. And I just hold, and I'm respectful and soft, firm and kind. And so those are the things that help to establish really positive and continuous supported self-regulation. We stay calm, they stay calm. Again, there'll be some books towards the end of this that you might be interested in that might help in that process. There's a book called The Conscious Parent by Dr. Sabari Shafali. And she is, amazing psychologist that gives some really good ideas of oftentimes when we get into those back and forth or those struggles with our own child, it has to do with us being in a hurry or feeling like we need this right now or that we're late for something. And so really thinking about how can I prepare this environment? I know we have to leave by 2:30 to get to the doctor's appointment. And so what can I do in a conscious way to help be with that child so that they can regulate their morning and not feel like something's being pulled from them? Another whole conversation, we're probably going to have a PIP workshop later this year just about self-regulation, independence, interdiscipline at all ages, teenagers as well. Really trying to give families super important tools to help in this process. So we're just kind of touching base on some of this right now. Also, in addition to that, helping your child to, in that independent spirit, self-advocate, set personal boundaries, and show respect and care for others. So as you heard at the orientation conversations before you enrolled your child, we really recommend that if your child is struggling with something, instead of them coming home and telling you and you emailing the teacher, that you say to your child, like, wow, it sounds like you're really upset that you've brought this up 2 days in a row. Do you want to email your teacher on your own, or would you like me to sit and you tell me what to write? And you just kind of hold, you know. Oh, no, I don't want you to do that. I don't want to do that. That's not what I want to do. Well, we brought it up a couple of times. So, you know, it's time to get the other adults in your life involved so we can find a way through this, because this is becoming something that you're really upset about. And so we've talked about it and you've gotten really frustrated. Now it's time to do something. So, and letting them know, I mean, all of us, I'm sure, on this call know other humans that we may work with or be in family with that don't know how to self-advocate for themselves, right? And instead they choose to speak illy of somebody out of their presence. And as you know from the family handbook, because you've all read every sentence of it, that we work to be a gossip-free school, right? We want young people and adults that when they have a concern or concern or frustration, that they go directly to the person they need to speak to. And if we're good models of that, it helps them to do that part better too. And so, you know, helping them to know, had this young child, sweet young kid that came in with his mom to talk about something this week. And I left that conversation reminding myself of the best job that I have in the world, right? That I get to be in partnership with these families and their young people to help to create supports and solutions for frustrations or things. In this case, it was about shame. It was about this young person feeling shame and then not wanting to come to school. So we directly addressed it and put some plans in place to help that to be removed for them. So also really important. Things that might be different at CM. So, you know, if for instance, you, for example, you or your spouse or partner might be going out of town and the child might miss a few days of school or a teen might, we really want you to work with the teacher or teachers and our advisors and come up with a plan for what they can do for work at home. Sometimes that might be for the 9-year-old, you know, budgeting how much gas they're going to need for this trip. Or it might be calling or being online and booking the hotel rooms, right? Giving them developmental tools. For the teen, it might be completing their college courses, right? So whatever that process is, you work in tandem with the studio teachers or advisors and come up with a plan for work. And then the absence waiver process, which I know you've seen through the cupola notes. It has the link on it for our blog, where you can go and just fill in the absence waiver. And if the studio teacher advisor believes that equals to a day of work, then they waive that absence. So we really want to encourage that learning happens all the time and everywhere. You know, things that might be different. We try, and I know we email a whole lot and we give you a lot of communication and it could be really overwhelming, but we do try to think about like what's necessary, what's needed, right, in this conversation. And you may not be able to get to them for every single one, and that's why we repeat some of those pieces for you. But we really do try to think about, like, we've sent out in this last cupola notes how you can get 8 free COVID tests a month through reimbursement from your health insurance. Now, some of you on the call might already be doing that, but we're always trying to think of, I mean, we've had, I think, 7 now or 8 COVID positive cases in the first week plus of school. And so trying to help families to know how to test so they can get kids back in the building. So we really try to think about those resources. So please read the emails. It will help you to understand the culture that you've decided to partner with so that we can all be our best selves with each other. I noticed when talking to a couple families over the summer that multi-age environments kind of like people forgot or didn't ever hear that that was the thing because they hadn't been in the building for a while. But that's a purposeful thing. Dr. Maria Montessori, through her observations and understanding planes of development. So in most cases, children stay in the same room for multiple years. At early childhood, that's 3, 4, and 5-year-olds. So kinders are also in the early childhood environment. So they're the oldest in that group. And then 6 through 9-year-olds, which would be first, second, and third levels. And then 9 to 12-year-olds are 4th, 5th, and 6th levels. So they stay in the same environment. We call them studios for 3 years. And so when you think about, for many of us who went through a more traditional education, we had a teacher for 1 year, and then we had another teacher for 1 year. And so this way, that teacher gets to really know, and you get to really, the child really gets to know the adult. In our teens program, they're in 2-year cycles and 4-year cycles. So at that high school age level, we call it the teens program. They are in the same environment studio for 4 years. And so that teacher follows them through that stage of development and through that whole process of crafting their high school plan and their after high school plan. You also know that snack and lunches are a little different. So we really encourage wellness at our school. We really encourage you to let your child at any age help with making their lunch or completely make their lunch. So our children, Caitlin and Casey, made their own lunches from the time they were, again, 6, 7 years old. And they helped in almost all the times when they were younger than that. And so eventually they got to the point where we would go to the grocery, we give them a budget, they would buy their own foods with their own budget, they would make their own lunches. We would give them parameters like you have to have at least 2 vegetables or a vegetable and a fruit or, a grain. You can decide what those processes are and then, allow them to do that. We really encourage if you bring candy or a dessert, it's one small one, not a set of Pop-Tarts with the Yoplait yogurt, with the granola bar, right? So something like a mini something for something sweet, a Hershey Kiss, right? And they don't need to have dessert, but if you choose that, something small, right? And helping them to know, what is inside the food they're eating and so forth. We have a lot of very conscious parents like that. A lot of avocados come for lunch and so forth. So we really encourage you to be creative. And so that's also important. So think about if you're bringing snack, fruits, vegetables, eggs, cheese, those are the parameters for that. So, they can put that in a separate container or a part of their lunch, and they can eat that when they're hungry during the day. Birthdays are done a little bit different in each level and in each studio. And so just ask. In the early childhood level, it's not uncommon to have a production, as you will. So, keep that information, communicate with your studio teachers, and, lean in. It's a really beautiful experience if you celebrate birthdays, of course. Prepared environment, so each environment, 3 to 6-year-old environment, which there's 4 of, all the way, 4 of those environments, all the way up to the 14, 18-year-old environments. There's also 4 of those. Each one's prepared for that stage of development. And so if you decided to become a volunteer or a sub, and you won't go through that workshop, you can make a plan to start coming into the building. To stay open and keep this program the best we can all year long, it really takes as many parent subs that we can get. We don't use a program like Kelly for subbing and so forth. We use parents. Sometimes we also use applicants or student teachers, but we really find it important to have parents come in and learn the process. I've never heard a parent that's done that who hasn't felt like it's changed their life. And so we really encourage you to do the same thing if you can. And if you can't, maybe you'd like to volunteer and do something, or you can help take things home. Oftentimes studios need things cut out or materials made. So there's lots of ways for you to get involved. You've been through drop off and pickup now. We've sent you 92 emails about it. So feel free to reach out if you have any questions about that. I know it is a lot to get 630 children in and out of this campus every day without a bus is a process. So we really appreciate you trying to be here during your pickup time, helping to spread the love so that we reduce the amount of traffic on the St. Joseph Road and keep everybody safe. So thank you so much. We encourage you not to idle. If you have siblings at other levels, your role is to pick them up at the different levels. If you cannot do that, then someone arrives late or goes home early, unless they're enrolled in extended learning program. So I know that that's not perfect, but it really helps if all of us do that piece. We have so many siblings in the school. It's a lot. So thank you so much for your help with that. And just again, with attendance and just being consistent, it does make a big difference in regulation of emotions for many children if they arrive late or have to leave early. So just really working with the teachers and advisors to make that the best process for that. Other ways to get connected. So you've already been to the first Parent Partner Conference. Woohoo! You did it. There's 3 more this year. I know a few of you may have missed the first Parent Partner Conference. It is really important that it happens on those 2 days because those teachers go through a marathon to do those parent partner conferences. And it really affects the rest of their week if they have to try to make them up at different times. So the best you can, try to make those during those 2 days. We try to make them some early in the morning, some later in one night so that we can fit everybody's schedule. We'll probably move to something more of a hybrid. We're still discussing that as a staff. For some families, they really like the virtual option because they can take a break from work. And others really would like to go back to a more face-to-face. So more news to come as we approach the November PPCs. August 30th, so 2 weeks, 5 o'clock is the substitute volunteer workshop. And it will probably be here on campus. It will probably be in the CASA, but more information to come. We really encourage families to attend that. If you are a family that has a child in early ed, the early education program, and you want to come observe in the observation windows, you need to also go through the sub-volunteer workshop. We've just decided that that is the way we can make our campus the safest. We do background checks on all families that want to volunteer sub in the school. And, we are just in a new stage of life in schools, and we are going to keep adding safety parameters. So Child's Work Night is October 27th from 4:30 to 6:30. It's a really neat time to come and be an observer and let your child give you a tour of what they've learned and what they've done. And just like we don't use praise in most age levels and almost any age level, we also don't correct them. And so, we look for the developmental time frame, and we teach something or show something in a new way. But as you come to Child's Work Night and you can see your child doesn't understand something, just observe. You can always whisper to the teacher afterward if you have a question. But we're really trying to help them to take risks. If you've ever been with a child that's been in an environment that corrects and uses praise, sometimes they'll be in a very safe the way they write, the way they do their math, and we want them to feel really confident to take lots of risks. And so that might be something to put on your calendar. It's a beautiful night to learn more about what your child's learned. The family handbook, which we talked about in emails, we've talked about the Montessori blog. Ask questions. We really, are open. We want to hear from you. Give us your concerns or your questions. That's also really important. And then the Montessori philosophy. These are some of the books that I mentioned. Again, these will be linked in the PDF. But some of my favorites, things that I think really help families to engage into a Montessori culture. Kids Are Worth It. Really important book. About giving that whole interdiscipline process and the ways that we can do that well and the ways that might not work as we hoped. How to raise an amazing child in a Montessori way, Montessori for every family, how to talk so kids can listen, will listen so kids will talk, how to talk so young kids will listen and listen so young kids can talk. And then the third one is how to talk so teens will listen and listen so teens will talk. So she has a great series of those books that are really helpful. The Conscious Parent, one I talked about earlier, Children Who Are Not Yet Peaceful. If you have a young person that is struggling with the emotional dysregulation, it's a great book. It gives you great ideas. A lot of our staff read this book every year. Montessori Madness was a parent that wrote a book because he had his child in Montessori school, and he's like, why do people not know this? And it helps to give parents the information to talk to other parents about. They're like, oh, you go to Montessori school? Why? What's different? Now you know because you've read this book. So Montessori Science Behind the Genius. So it talks about the science between the Montessori philosophy. Positive Discipline. the parenting tools. Many of our staff, and I think the majority of our staff, maybe 75%, will have completed a positive parenting course through the Montessori part of that this year. So many of us did it years ago, so we're reapproaching, as we know children are coming back in large settings together and working through that process. And then, one of Maria Montessori's classic books, The Absorbent Mind, especially for families that have children from that 0 to 5 age level. Mindset, really helping you to think about, this is a great book, I think, to read with your teenager together and talk about it. And Punished by Rewards. Alfie Kohn does a terrific way of sharing why you should not use reward charts and stickers. We don't use any of those things here at the school. And so it might give you some really great tools to move away from that if that's something that you're doing now. I'll let Jesse talk a little bit about community engagement and some of the things we have going on. Go ahead, Jesse.
Thank you, Barbara. So we have all kinds of exciting things happening at the school at all times, whether big projects that are happening to the campus or the things that are happening inside the studios with your children. So anything cool that happens here, it's going to the blog. So please check out our blog at shiningminds.com/blog. Of course, I'm sure you guys have all seen the emails and are aware of the Natural Playground. This is a huge project, and it's getting closer and closer to being completed each week. So
do the chant, Jesse. Do the chant.
Oh, this was the most adorable thing. Of the full video of moving this rock was 28 minutes long. What's on YouTube is only about 4 minutes, but these kids started chanting, "Lift it up, lift it up," and they kept it up for almost all of that 28 minutes, just with a few breaks here and there. And it was really, there was a lot of energy, So, that Natural Playground it's something that is paid for by a grant. But if you would like to help us make the most of it, donations are always welcome. We would love to purchase lots of interactive materials, because this is a space for everyone. It's not just for the little kids. Teens need play too. Teens need time outside. So the Natural Playground is a space that's meant to really engage everyone. So it's always something that you can help with. If you're not familiar, we have an amazing theater space. It's very beautiful. It's called the Casa de Curiosity, which for the history buffs is a nice little nod to Dr. Montessori's first school, Casa de Bambini, or Children's House. Keep an eye out for, email communications from me about upcoming events, ways that we can really embrace the community, because that's something I'm on a mission to engage and embrace both our inner community, you guys, and our external community, our neighbors. We really want to make sure that folks know that we're here and we have a lot to offer. So the Casa de Curiosity is a place where we can host a lot of community engagement and education events. We always have a lot going on inside the school. For instance, the Islands, which is the earlier age teens level. We have gardening. We have a greenhouse. They have a cafe, which smells amazing. I don't drink coffee during the day, but I'm very, very, very tempted, and I've heard it's good. And the 9 to 12, the Gemstones, do these big collaborative projects that help them learn how to work together. And they explore arts and crafts and complex games like chess and world cultures. And these things can always use your support. So through PIP, you heard a little bit about the PIP grants and Amazon Smile and other ways that you can get involved. Keep an eye on your studio emails, Your teachers will let you know ways that you can help by providing items, your time, but you can also email me, Jay Flint at Shining Minds, and we can always set up a plan to make a monthly donation. You heard Pip talk about that $18,000. That's a huge number. You would be surprised. It only takes 20, 25 families to hit $3,000 just with each family giving $10 a month. So a little bit goes a long way, but as important as that is your time, we want you here. So please sign up for the sub and volunteer workshop, because we would love to have you here as much as possible. And in general, we're always accepting donations for the Expansion Development Fund. The Expansion Development Fund is just something that goes towards anything and everything that's happening. So for instance, the natural playground or the casa when it was being constructed, and whatever else may come. And we've got some exciting plans in the works. And then, if you're not on social media, I understand. But if you are, please follow us. We're on Facebook, Community Montessori. We're on Instagram and Twitter at Shining Minds CM. And we also have a YouTube. So any videos will go there. And those are just good ways to stay up to date with whatever's happening. If something's coming, if there's a date to remember, we're going to put it out there as well. We send it in the emails, but sometimes you don't catch all of that. And how often do you catch something when you're scrolling? So, if you're on social media, please give us a follow.
Thank you, Jesse.
Yeah.
From someone who isn't on social media, but it's so important to have different ways to connect to different people. Thank you. Let's see if I can get my, there we go. So I know you've heard a lot about the COVID plans and how that works if your child's sick or if someone's COVID positive in your house. And there's monkeypox that's happening in our country now. And our staff actually just had a staff meeting being informed more about what's happening with monkeypox locally and in our state and country, and some processes that we've put in place for that, as well as polio and whooping cough. And anyway, lots of things, and we try to stay really informed. And so I just want to take a minute if anyone has any questions about any of those processes in place. And I'm also going to throw into that, Glenn talked a little bit about safety. Our school has put a lot of energy into our safety plans. We don't share all those plans for obvious reasons, but for example, our whole staff had advanced first aid training this year, so that we have ways to know how to use tourniquets, and we have advanced first aid kits in every studio in the building. It's insurance. We don't anticipate ever having to use that knowledge, but we want to know and be informed. And so we've put some really big goals in place for us as a school to do that really, really well. But anyway, I just want to take a minute if anyone has any questions about infectious disease things or safety things. Anybody right now we can help with, or comment?
I do have a question.
Yeah.
What plan do you have, with polio popping up and measles and all these sort of infectious things popping up? Do you have a plan for, and I know this can be a sensitive topic, so I apologize, I'm not trying to offend anyone,
Sure.
For unvaccinated children, and how to move forward if there is like a threat for one of these diseases?
However, I know our Floyd County Health Director by name. All of his children came through our school, so I've already been in communication with him recently and in the past about this conversation. What typically happens if there's an outbreak in something like polio is that kids that are not vaccinated and staff that are not vaccinated or don't have a titer that shows that they have the antibodies will have to stay off campus for a period of time until the outbreak succeeds. So that's the process that I understand, that will happen if there becomes an outbreak in our community or in our school. Thanks for the question. Anything else from anybody about that or anything? No eye contact. No eye contact. Just kidding. So this just some things to remember. We really encourage slowness, and so I know that sounds contradictory because we tell the early ed families, like, have your kids ready to get out of the car. But, like really thinking about like, how do you give enough time? My son-in-law who takes care of our 3 soon to be 4 grandchildren arrives really early, because he doesn't want to feel rushed. And, everyone finds their own rhythm with that, but really being kind of slow, mindful, even with a team, that's really important, purposeful, use a lot of reflection in how things went or didn't go. Talked about the emails, talked about the staff contact, so all the teachers have voicemail as well. You can log your volunteer hours. So if you decide to go to the volunteer sub workshop, there's a place on our website, you click current families where you can log your volunteer hours so that you can get to that 10, hopefully 20 or 30 hours. Naturally connect learning, right? So finding those ways, like I talked about, going to the doctor's office, letting your child, developmentally appropriate, take the best lead in that. Just making a plan now to be involved. If your goal is you're off on Thursday afternoons, talking to studio teachers and see if there's something you can do. They may not let you in right away. They might want to have you watch in a different studio for a while before you come in your own child's studio. But we want you to do that eventually. But we also want to do it in a way that helps your child to be successful too. And, we just, again, want to remind you that we cannot be here without you. And we are humbled every year by the rooms and the wait list. And it's just a lot to think about how, each of you have built this community, and so thanks for entrusting in us this partnership with you. We know at this time, maybe more than ever, trusting others is hard. And so thank you for putting that trust in us, and know that we are always here for you to question, our decisions. Like, we want to hear from you. We don't want to just hear the good stuff. We want to hear the other things too. We already had a parent share something that they were concerned about what a young person was wearing, or that made their child feel unsafe. And then that helps us to have those conversations with others. We won't always see or know every single thing, but we want to be helpful and be a partner with you. So anything else anyone has they think might be helpful or they're curious about?
I did want to say, I wanted to give you guys some good feedback as far as being a new parent. I've got a daughter in a Pentagon studio this year, early at Harper Scott. And
Amy and Carrie,
yeah, so we have had a really great experience. We've had like the perfect amount of information to get her ready. All the supply lists were perfect. So it's kind of run seamlessly. So I just wanted to give that positive feedback to you.
Awesome.
The one other question I had was, do you guys have any plans to expand the nursery? Because I have a baby and I'm on the wait list and I'm so eager to get her in there. Yeah. So just wondering.
We really want to. It's a capacity issue. I don't do anything that I don't think we can do really well. And right now, finding really strong staff members outside of who we have to build that program. I mean, we have 50 families on the wait list for the nursery. Like, I know that we could add another environment. We actually had some money earmarked to build another environment, but it's just a capacity issue with employment right now. But thank you, and I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
Yeah,
it's a compliment, if anything. So yeah.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I have a question really quick.
Sure.
We have a newborn at home. My son is in the Pentagon studio. If there is like a positive COVID case in their class or they're exposed, will we get notified of that?
You will. Yes.
Okay. All right. Awesome.
Yeah. Thank you. We ask families if there's a positive case to notify us within 2 hours. Okay. And the cupola staff has actually created templates for the teachers to pull in all the information that families need to know. So you can also find the COVID tracker on our website. If you go to our website and then current families, you'll see the infectious disease category, and there's a COVID tracker, so you can kind of see where it is in the building. But when there is a COVID positive case in your child's studio, you'll get an email from the studio about that.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Yep. You're welcome.
I had a quick question. This goes back
Sure.
to like the nursery. I have a daughter in the islands, but I have a daughter who right now goes to daycare. We're pretty happy with it, but she's going to be 2, and we're looking to try and get her into the program so that she can stay and go through the whole process. Is there an age that has that like huge wait list, or like is there a separate area for 2-year-olds, or and there she is.
There she is. Cue the cute child.
Yes, cute child.
Right.
So kind of curious about that.
Yeah. So the community nursery is for 0 to 3-year-olds. So that's the one that we have the 50 wait list for right now. I mean, you're welcome. Like I say to families, you never really know. Sometimes the bulk of the wait list is for infants. Sometimes it's for the older children. But once they have an independent bathroom routine, we will start children as young as 2.5. So it is something that you can enroll when they get a little older, even in the early childhood program.
Okay. And do I call to just put her on the wait list, or is that like
everything you need actually on the website? So
Okay.
you can just go to the program and you can apply right online.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Lori. Anybody?
Hi, Barbara.
Yeah, hi.
Another nursery question.
Yeah.
You've already heard from me a million times from email, so I'm sorry.
You don't need to be sorry at all.
So, regarding like the independent bathroom routine, my husband and I have been talking because we've been on the wait list for months now, and I'm like, he's going to be potty trained and ready to go into early ed by the time he's off the wait list.
Right.
So I know you said at 2.5 they're able to go into early ed. Is that only during the beginning of the school year?
I mean, if they have an independent bathroom routine and you feel like they're developmentally ready to join the early ed, we do have children that start throughout the year in early ed. So that's also an option. Mm-hmm.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Thanks, Megan.
Hi. I have a question about the sub workshop.
Yeah.
If we can't go on the 30th, are there other opportunities to do that so we can come into the school, or is it like really got to make it on the 30th?
Yeah, thank you for asking that question. It'll be recorded just like this will. And so if you don't attend it, you can watch the recording. Then there'll be like a questionnaire that you fill out, and you'll give also information for a background check. And so you can do that independently if you're not able to make it on the 30th.
Because I assume children are not welcome to come if it's in person.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a child that you feel like can be, can sit and watch with you, that's completely up to you. It's just hard developmentally for young children to be at the workshop and for you to be at the workshop. So, if you have a young person that can sit and read a book, but it's an hour and a half, so it's timely, and it's mostly just for adults or for children that can be independent, with you during that time. Thank you for the questions.
Oh, sorry, I have another question.
Sure.
I've seen a lot of emails about like the food pantry, and also like I have a lot of extra clothes and things. Is there a process to donate them to the school, or is there a need for young children's clothing items?
It's funny. I was just talking to some parents about maybe a potential clothing switch, not really a what's it called? Not really a yard sale, but where parents could bring in clothes and then pick up other clothes. We don't have anything like that scheduled right now, but the food pantry is for food. Sometimes people drop off a few pieces of clothing there, and sometimes they're picked up. We really don't have much of a process. Food pantry is very bare right now. Unfortunately, we have more food insecurity than we have people that are able to keep it stocked. Once it gets stocked, it is empty within just a few hours. So, if you are able and you have some extra food at home and want to drop it off, you can drop it off at any time, or you can get on the schedule as well. At this time, we don't really have a place for clothes, but hope maybe that'll be something we'll do in the future.
Where do we drop off for the food pantry?
If you enter the school up above the little pond there on the left, there's a white house, and right between the school and the white house is a little building, and you'll see the marking on it for the food pantry.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I had a quick question about the outside play in the winter. Getting ready to shop for some winter stuff at upcoming sale. What are the temperatures that they go out or like don't go out in outside? Is it like everything goes, or a certain? I know some schools like cut it off at a certain temperature.
I assume you're talking about early childhood, the early childhood program. Yeah. Oh gosh, you're going to ask me that question. I know we kind of have an internal monitor, but it really depends on the wind chill
Just
and
the
such.
condition.
Yeah,
Okay.
it really does. And
All right.
so it's good to ask your studio teacher. I mean, most of the time they'll say they'll go outside,
Right.
as often as they can. They want children to experience the weather.
Yeah.
But it will also depend on if everyone can have, the parts of their body covered and, those kinds of things too. So
All right.
does that help?
Yeah,
a little bit?
definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks. Thank you.
I had a quick question about aftercare. I did not sign my child up for aftercare previously, but we're interested in it now. I don't know if it's even available, and I was wondering if you could kind of explain what the kids do in that aftercare program.
So you can email Parina, PR Mahara at shiningminds.com. You'll see her email and all the cupola notes. So you can email her to ask if there's a wait list and get your name on the wait list. There she goes. She just put it in the chat for you. She's so magical. I told her to go home, just be away. So it depends on the age level. So, what we try to do is the same philosophy, right? We want children to be curious and to practice things. A lot of time is spent outside. Once the natural playground's open, they'll probably be on the natural playground most of the afternoon. But there's always like games and like group games where they can, play chess. Often that's a big one at the 9 to 12 and 12 to 14 program right now. So it's kind of like a way for them to hang out. In the older studios, sometimes they'll be doing, work at home in the afternoon. So it's a mixture of things based on the age of development. Early childhood spends most of the time outside. So that's kind of, it depends on the age level, but we try to make it fun, learning environment based on the same philosophy as the rest of the day.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else? All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Please don't hesitate to reach out at any time. I'll stay on the call for a minute I'll go ahead and stop the recording. And so if anyone wants to stick around, if you had anything else that you're thinking about that we can help with, we would